Next, we'll work with a simple interest equation. I equals PRT, where I is the amount of interest you'll earn, P is the principal, the amount invested, R is the annual interest rate as a decimal, and T is time. So that's what all those things mean. So now let's work a problem. I always like to start by writing out my equation. Remember, in between the P and the R and the T, multiplication is implied. So now let's start figuring out what pieces of this we have. Okay, in April. So that's the time. The time was 1 month. Now we're working annually, so that's 1/12 of a year. April, 1 month is 1/12 of a year. Was charged an interest fee of $872. So that was his interest fee. On an unpaid credit card balance of $545. That was what he started with. That's going to be the principal. And we're to find the annual interest rate. So that's going to be R. So now all I have to do is plug all this information in and solve for my unknown. The interest was $872. The principal, or what I started out with, was $545. My rate was unknown. And my time is 1/12, or I'll change to a decimal. .083 repeating. Now next, I'm going to use the commutative property, which says I can switch around the order of these things since they're all multiplied. And I'm going to put 545 and multiply that together with .083 repeating to get one number there. 545 times .083 repeating equals about 45.42 R. Now I just solve for R. Divide both sides by 45.42. In my calculator, I do 8.72 divided by 45.42. R equals 0.192, which is 19.2%. Let's look at the next problem. Clarissa purchased a bond for $1,000 that earns an annual simple interest rate of 6.4%. How much must she deposit into an account that earns 8% interest so that the interest she earned from each account after 1 year is the same? We need to organize this information. It sounds to me like we have two accounts. So let's organize them. First, let's look at this first account. What's the principal? $1,000. Do we know the rate? Yep, 6.4%. As a decimal, that's 0.064. Do we know the time? Yes, both of them are going to be put in for 1 year. And then we'll be able to figure out the interest with all this information. Okay, account 2. What's the principal on account 2? Well, that's our unknown. How much should she deposit into the next account? So that's our unknown. What's the rate of this account? 8%, 0.08. What's the time? Again, 1 year. Do we know our interest rate? Well, they want the interest rate to be the same. So that means if I can first figure out what this interest rate is, then I can put that number here and then solve for the principal last. So I'm going to solve this, the account 1 interest. Then I'll know to put that over here for account 2, and then I can solve for P. Okay, so let's get started. I equals PRT. So let's talk about account 1. Let's try to figure out the interest rate. Take the principal times the interest rate times the time. So I plug that into my calculator and I get $64. So I know that the interest for account 1 was $64. Now I want our interest rates to be equal, so I'm going to put a 64 here. Now I'm going to use this information to solve for the principal. Again, write your equation. I know the interest will be 64. I don't know the principal. I know the rate will be 0.08, and the time will be a year. 0.08 times 1 is 0.08. So now we can solve for P. In my calculator, 64 divided by 0.08. So my principal on account 2 should be $800 to earn the same amount in 1 year. Again, good organization is the key to these problems.